Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the Three Gun Show, brought to you by Armalite Rifles, LAG Tactical, and Breda Shotguns. I'm your host, Dave Hartman. My guests this week are Vortex Optics shooter and friend of the show, Dillen Easley, and social media marketing guy, Optics Encyclopedia, and master of the pizza oven at Vortex Optics, Jimmy Hamilton. And we're here to help you make sense of optic choices for Three Gun. If you're new here, the Three Gun Show is a weekly podcast that is all about practical shooting. I shot my first three-gun match in 2011 and completely fell in love with it. Since then, I've shot USPSA, practical shotgun, two-gun, and PCC matches, and I also have rimfire and precision matches on the schedule for 2018. I always come back to three-gun as it is the sport that I'm passionate about. The Three Gun Show is my way of giving back and introducing new people to the sport while sharing the hard-earned knowledge of world-class shooters. There are over 180 hours of interviews with top competitors across a multitude of disciplines. Each week we discuss topics such as gear, technique, training, mental game, and we joke around and laugh along the way, especially when we discuss match travel stories. If you like this type of podcast, be sure to subscribe in iTunes and leave a review. This podcast is brought to you by Breda USA, Italian shotguns that are the best in the world, and this is a shotgun tech tip from Team Breda. Hey, this is Dave Hartman from the Three Gun Show, and I'm with Josh Tarrant of Team Breda, and we are going to show you a shotgun tech tip. Josh, what do you got?
All right, today I'm going to teach you guys how to do an emergency reload or a bolt lock reload. You have fired your last round, your gun's gone empty. You don't want it to be empty, you need to get it back in the game. So what you're going to do is immediately get the gun in your loading position, draw your shells, close the bolt, perform your reload, trip your release, rack it, back shooting.
And that's your tech tip for today from Josh Tarrant of Team Breda. Check out Breda's B12i 3-gun ready inertia-driven shotgun at BredaUSA.com. That's BREDA. This podcast is also brought to you by LAG Tactical. I've been using LAG mag pouches and holsters for years, ever since James Casanova introduced me to their Nova holsters and their first-generation competition mag pouches. They have a new design for mag pouches out now in the MCS, the modular carry system, which features a two-piece design and fits a wide variety of pistol mags as well as different brands of AR mags. I got to see the prototypes in action when Scott Green won the Lucas Oil PCC Championship, and I'm excited to run them myself. Check them out at lagtactical.com. In this week's podcast, Jimmy, Dillen, and I discuss the optic requirements for the major three-gun divisions. Dillen is no stranger to each division and tosses in some pro tips and best practices. Then we get Jimmy to run down the range of optics, prisms, holographics, and red dots available from Vortex by price point. There's something for every budget in this discussion, so enjoy this one with Dillen Easley and Jimmy Hamilton. Guys, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
I'm excited to be here. So let's set the stage. We're in the Vortex Optics booth at SHOT Show 2018, and with me are a couple buddies, Dillen Easley. How you doing, man?
Oh, always good. Got my new toys in today. Got to play with them, put hands on them for the first time.
Yeah,
That's
man.
a good day.
There's kind of a weird thing happening here. I guess weird for me. There's all kinds of people that are over here taking pictures of your honcho.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a minute here. But first I want to introduce Jimmy Hamilton. Jimmy, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. First podcast ever that I'm on, so
Really?
That's exciting. Yeah.
No pressure.
We'll see. If I totally, F up, maybe you can give me some hand signals. Just give me the whole, hook, line, and sinker deal.
That's right.
I'll shut up real quick.
You're doing good so far.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, so Jimmy, you are our resident expert in optics here because you work at Vortex Optics from the Vortex Optics family, and we met at a match. It was Vortex Shooter Source 3-gun, and then came and visit you a couple times in Middleton. But
right.
for the audience listening, I want to give them an idea of who you are. So, Dillen, you've been on the show a bunch of times. So folks can go back and listen to those episodes, which we'll include in the show notes. But Jimmy, what's your shooting history?
So shooting history, it is Probably I'm fairly limited compared to a lot of the folks who are maybe listeners, your guys certainly, but I'm getting into it quite a bit. Fairly fresh out of college, and I've got into shooting when I was in college, and I was working at the family biz. Once I really got into working at Vortex, you hang around a lot of dudes who are just talking guns nonstop. They bring them into work. Stuff that you saw in Call of Duty is now actually real, and you can hold it. And, it's like,
sitting
holy
on
smokes.
most desks.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of got into it just because it seemed, it's super cool. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I just knew, like, hey, I just want to hit the range and, like, shoot some steel. And then, Ruben, who I'm sure many of the people listening know, you guys all know quite well. Ruben ended up getting me into some competition-style stuff. He said, hey, this isn't just kind of like stuff that you go to the range and just, throw some lead down range. You can actually get into a competitive nature with it. And, so now I'm starting to try and get into a little bit more of the competitive shooting. Last year I did the Hornady Zombies in the Heartland 3-gun match. That was a heck of a lot of fun. And I got to, like you said, we met at the Shooter Source 3-gun match. So, yeah, I mean, trying to get into as much as I can.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, so you have a pretty cool match locally too, right? So Ruben puts on a 3-gun match, like a monthly 3-gun match, right?
Yeah, at Winnequa, out in Lodi,
that's
just
the name
north
I
of us.
Remember. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you guys have like all the cool names for stuff in Wisconsin. You got like Winnequa and Lodi, and everything is named after like some sort of like Native American themed type.
Oh yeah, just open up your atlas, which I'm sure so many of us have these days, and point at a random spot in Wisconsin, and you'll see some interesting stuff. So yeah, Minnetonka. I'm trying to think of Manitowoc.
Yep.
Waukesha. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, cool. So we have a bunch of stuff on the table here. We've got a bunch of different optics, and we're here to talk about optics selection for 3-gun. So, Jimmy, you're getting into it a little bit. What division have you been shooting?
Gosh, you're gonna have to help me remind me because it was back in the summer. So I was doing optics with I was running a 1-8 Strike Eagle.
Okay.
So
TAC Ops or
TAC Ops,
like TAC Ops.
Right. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. I really like on most of my ARs. I run a 1 to something, 1 to 4, 1 to 6, 1 to 8, and so I wanted to be doing something where I could be working on some of my skills, becoming more familiar with the rifles that I shoot regularly. And TAC Ops is a perfect place to do that, I actually just brought – in fact, when I was at Hornady, I was using my SBR that I have. So a couple of people were like, what the heck is that, But an SBR with a 1-8 on it. Shot really well. But, yeah, awesome. I mean, it was just –
it's a perfect match for that gun, though.
Right.
I mean, you're not shooting anything past 300, and it's got everything you need, so –
yeah, it did really well. So.
Yeah, our buddy Adam Maxwell likes to sing the praises of the short-barreled rifles in 3-guns. So
nice and quick handling.
Yeah, they're fast. Yeah. I've got 3 of them. I actually prefer an 18-inch just for the recoil impulse, but you can't argue. If you got some tight walls, everything else, an SBR is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I've been shooting the 13.5-inch Armalite for 2017. And that was that's been a kick in the pants, especially like you said, the fast stages where you've got a bunch of walls and stuff like that, and you can just go through and burn it down, and then hits targets out to 550 yards too, which is kind of nice. So
definitely,
a little more drop, but man, you can't argue with how flickable and how you can move through and do everything.
Flickable,
yeah, you flick it left and right.
Yeah,
transition hard.
Nice.
So, and I remember Nubs had a little video. He's shooting at an indoor range, and all the indoor ranges I've shot at, one direction, but apparently the one he's at, you can shoot, left side, right side, back, everything else. It's an awesome indoor range. And they had a little transition drill, and it was basically muzzle straight forward, one target, and I think he put one on it, swung hard left, put one on it, swung hard right, put one on it, and you're talking, 90-degree transition, 180-degree transition. I'm like, holy crap. If you got that light little gun, that thing moves fast.
Yeah.
So it does.
And Nubs is a fast dude too. So
yeah.
Well, so the division I started in was limited, and I think a lot of people start there because, optics are generally less expensive for limited division.
They are quite a bit actually.
Red dots are super super on ARs, and most people don't really shoot past 100 yards in like everyday or plinking type of scenarios. So
that's actually where I not really started, but I ended up spending a lot of time in.
Yeah.
When I first started, I didn't know what I needed, so I came out with a Glock 17 and a pump shotgun, and then I think I had a 2.5 to 10 scope that was on my AR, and I took it up there, and I'm like, this doesn't work. It's 2.5 to 10 without something on the side. You don't have enough down toward the bottom end. So I did have a red dot, threw it on there, and like, yeah, that's a whole nother division. I'm like, oh, cool, I'll go shoot that. And that's, I think, one of the things for somebody like me, if everybody started in limited and really got good at shooting offhand and shooting with the dot and shooting distance, adding magnification only makes you faster.
Right.
Versus the guy who starts with magnification and then goes back to limited. Now they have to kind of relearn that discipline, if you will.
Right.
So
That's a really good thing to do anytime you're getting into a sport or a hobby like that. You know, I admittedly probably am more into driving sports than I am into shooting sports for now. But you know, when you learn how to, a lot of the driving sports, they start you on front wheel drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't just go tearing a car off the course and kill yourself.
Well,
And
and
then,
like
yeah.
SCCA, they have like their stock divisions, right? So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
very little modifications possible to get you into that sort of environment and get you the skills before you do that rear engine Porsche, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
You mean I can't just jump into a Porsche and I
Yeah,
can't
sure
afford
you
one
can.
to begin with, so it won't matter. So, like you said, we have some visual aids out here, and obviously you can't see it on the podcast, so we'll describe them well for you. But the first one we have is one of the demo rifles from the Vortex booth with a Spitfire on it.
Right.
For the guy who's going to shoot Tac Irons Division, and then obviously we've got the Honcho out here that just showed up today, and it's got iron sights with it. Now, in that division, I can run something like the Spitfire. What MSRP is, like 329?
Yeah.
So 329 MSRP, you go through Hit Optics Planet or Midway or one of the big vendors, you're going to obviously get a lower price than that. Great starting point. I think it forces you to learn a lot of discipline, especially when shooting long range.
So the
And if you watch
Spitfire's
guys like
the 1X
Birdsall,
for people that don't know.
yeah, it's one power, nothing added, but it does have an etched reticle. One of the things that I do have an issue with red dots is I have an astigmatism. So my dot isn't round and crisp. My dot's kind of a triangle shape.
Right.
And the brighter it is, the more it flares off into that triangle. With an etched reticle, it's crisp, clean, clear. And if you've ever watched a guy like Birdsall rip through a long-range stage shooting a 1X and you're going like, he beat me with no magnification, that's not right. Obviously, he's figured that out pretty well. And you can dial the elevation on them. Believe it or not, we had kind of a partnership between Rise and Vortex. We had one of these with a 16-inch barrel, very similar to my Rise rifle that's here, and we shot it out to 840 yards with the Spitfire.
Oh, wow.
At Media Day. And
Did you
so
see the target then?
yeah, the guy who was there, who's the RO, just kind of sat there like, you have got to be kidding me. So, look who come to join.
Yeah, we got a special treat here. Our buddy Ruben Alexson's going to join us.
Hopefully you find some pictures of him with his nice lion's mane.
Yes.
It's gorgeous.
Ruben, welcome.
Ruben's about to pillage this podcast.
Is this on or is it on standby?
There you go.
There it is.
How you doing, man?
Good.
Good. We were just talking to 1X Optics here. Dylan's running us through the Spitfire.
Talking about limited division.
Limited is a monster that a few people have mastered. Adam Maxwell, one of our employees, is, I think, one of the best limited shooters in the country. And there's, I won't.
You got Nathan Payne up there with him.
Yep.
Up in that same area, so they get to fight against each other all the time.
Hold on, I've got a visitor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. When Trump Jr. walks by, you kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Secret
I
Service
guess the
everywhere.
president's son doesn't understand microphones and how these things work.
I don't think he needs to.
Yeah. No, I think he'll be okay. So jumping into the next aspect, if we go to attack ops, this is where you're going to get a kind of a variety. So with the pistol, everything's going to stay the same as limited. You're still going to have iron sights. You're still going to have no comp or anything like that. The same length mags, all that good stuff. When you start going and talking about your rifle, though, you're going to have everything from a budget 1-6, 1-8 in the Strike Eagle. You're going to have a mid-level price and much higher quality with the Viper PST2, and then you're going to have just the top of the line, which is going to be the Razor. If anybody's seen, I absolutely love my Razors. I've got a stack of them, and Ruben's got my credit card number on on file. So
Yeah, the glass on the razor is ridiculous.
it is insane. The biggest thing that I actually like about it is it's the eye box in the back when you're looking at it. To me, it's like the scope disappears.
Right.
That's something I just didn't get with anything else. And surprisingly enough, they've got that 95% on the PST2. So my rifle that's over in the Rise booth has the PST2 on it, and everybody who's come through and picked up is like, well, what scope is this? What scope is this? Hey, yes, I normally run the Razor, but this thing is an absolutely awesome scope, especially for the money. You're talking less than half retail.
Right, yeah, right at half, I think, and 95, like you said, 95% of the performance for half the price.
Yeah.
Baby Razor, same turrets, same mag range, same reticle, daylight bright.
Mm-hmm. And so on the bottom end with the Strike Eagle, it's a budget optic. You're looking at 300 to 400 in that range, and 1 to 6, and there is a 1 to 8. You are going to experience some fisheyeing on the very high end, but it's a trade out. Optic quality for a great price on a feature loaded optic. When we go the opposite direction, when we go to the Razor, we've got the new 1 to 6E here, and I'm trying not to get too tempted to stick this in my pocket and just tell Ruben later.
What's the E for?
The E is kind of enhanced, right?
Enhanced, yep.
Yeah. So basically the exact same razor. And Ruben and I were talking about this yesterday at the booth. There's a couple areas in here where some of the weight was shaved off that's really simple. Instead of a brass battery cap, well, it's aluminum. It's just a simple change, right? But there's a 1/4 pound knocked off of it. And while I know a lot of people have said, like, well, does that really make a difference? I've got it in my hand right now, and it's a noticeable 1/4 pound.
Yeah.
And considering that it's the same durability, the same glass, the same optic, pretty hard not to argue that I'll probably be ordering a couple of these.
Yeah.
So
And it's never been designed to be, super lightweight optic. I mean, it's been designed to perform in some of the most dangerous and, high stress, super just beat on it environments. And so
we've all seen the video of, was it the Oklahoma State Trooper?
Yeah.
That used it?
Yeah, Brian, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Super cool guy. So
used it very effectively, if I remember correctly.
He did, yes. That ultimately ended up in a good outcome for the greater good.
Yes, yeah. But awesome option. All of us, I think we know
the Viper PST this year.
Yeah.
And I really dig it. The Razor was the first Vortex optic that I looked through. And,
it spoils you, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Viper's been great.
Yeah, the Viper's it's a very, very good option. As we kind of go into the next division, open, we know our mutual friend Josh Freilich has all the optics on all the guns. I think it's like 6 dots on his pistol and 4 on his shotgun and all of that. I actually have, with the help of Warren, when they anodized my rifle, they did an offset mount, and so I've got my Razor dot on the offset mount next to the PST2. So if you did happen to be by SHOT Show and had a chance to look at it, you'll notice that quick turn, you could have your optic set at 6 power and your dot right there, and it's amazing. One little quick turn of the gun, it's almost like nothing changed except for the magnification did. The new honcho that came through with the pistol, those are actually going to ship with a Vortex dot. Right now they're shipping with a Vortex Viper, a 6 MOA dot for the pistol, and it's got an adapter plate on the back that swaps out irons and optics. So when it comes to that, it's a great option for you to do. So, but it open's going to be another one of those things where if you're like Freilich, you're going to put a dot on top and a dot on the side so that you can roll the gun or you can shoot left-handed, right-handed. That guy's obviously figured it out, and if you want to know how to do it, I definitely talk to him. That's
one of the crazy things, because I remember, kind of running social media. You see Josh pop up there. And the first time I saw it, this was as I was still getting into the shooting competition world. I said, what the heck is that guy doing? I mean, because he's got what's he run for his shotgun?
That's a Dissident. I think it's built on a Vepr.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, and I'm a big fan of any AK platform. But, I mean, yeah, he's got Razor red dots jotting off to each side, and Ruben was explaining to me, sometimes, like you were saying, if you're you can cant the rifle different directions if you're moving real quick. Sometimes, if I'm not mistaken, aren't those some of them are for slugs and some of them are for...
I don't know if it's for slugs or bird. I think for the most part, you can sight that in for slugs, and then the bird shot's going to be a pattern around where the slug would hit.
Okay.
When I talked to Josh about it, because I could not figure out for the life of me why he had so many dots on these guns. And one of the things he said is if he switched to weak shoulder because he had to shoot around a barricade or something like that, his right eye could actually see the dot out of 45 on the right side when he had it on his left shoulder. So he didn't have to worry about switching eyes, hands, everything else, to just move it over. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work. Then he shows up and he's shooting PCC. He's got the same setup, and I'm going, okay, maybe one more dot. I'll give it a try. And he's not wrong. I can roll the gun. I can do that. I could run 2 different zeros if I wanted. The guys figured out how to out-open everybody else at open. So, and the guy obviously loves his optics maybe more than I do, which is kind of scary.
And we're back. We had to take a brief break for the host to get some air.
Trump Jr. showed up. It was real stuffy back there in that corner.
A lot of stuff going on. People
going
wanting to check out the honcho.
Yes.
So we're about 15 minutes into this, and we've just been calling it the honcho. So what is the honcho? Like,
So
if you follow Dillen on social media, you know, but there's several people that are not on the Facebooks that are
We're going
big
to do
fans of the show.
kind of a Vortex Live on it as well, I think. The honcho, for the most part, is I'm going to call it a modular pistol design.
Okay.
Phoenix Trinity's brainchild, the guys there just had that light bulb moment and decided they were going to do something different. And so they wanted something for the 3-gun model that I can shoot open, I can shoot tack iron or limited, and then or obviously tack ops and limited. And then I can also jump in and I can shoot 40 in USPSA. And all I have to do is swap a barrel. And so I'm not swapping slides or anything like that, literally just swapping a barrel.
Right. Well, this is still a 2011 platform.
It's 2011 platform. The
so it's unusual
barrel is
you
linkless, though.
Okay.
So it's weird. It's almost like a Glock barrel being fit in it.
Okay.
These were custom made by Barstow. When we were up there, the Barstow rep came by, checking it out. He's all giddy, giving me a thumbs up, all that stuff. So trying to stay focused and talk about optics, and he's there going, yeah, is it good? Is it good? Is it good? Yes, no, it's great. Go away. Okay, come back. All right, no, we're not going to put you on real quick. So, but super good guys over there, and they were able to make kind of what we needed. And it's kind of interesting. I don't want to, I guess, overstep and say kind of how everything's done, but if anybody who shot open, and I'm new to this, so I didn't understand what this meant, they were beating these guns up, and the optics weren't coming loose. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's normal. And they're like, yeah, but we don't use any Loctite on it. I'm like, okay, so what's that supposed to mean? They're running like 190 to 195 power factor ammo and just beating it to death.
And is that like a red dot mounted to the slide?
That was, they had one with it's mounted to the slide and one to the frame.
Okay.
So I got to see the video that happened probably November. Of course, we're in January now. And they had, nice little razor dots up there and just wham, 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 wham. And I'm like, God, that looks violent and nasty. It's one of the things with an open gun that I can understand why things break. But they went through and they have a specific thread technique style of how things are done, and it doesn't require any Loctite. So when you go to change out from tack ops to open, I simply remove one screw, change the comp out where the sight block was on the front. So it's a 5.4-inch sight block instead of a sight tracker. Change the sight block off and put on a comp. And then I take the rear sight module, 2 screws come out of it, optic mount goes on, and I put a Vortex Viper on top of it. And I go from tack optics to open in a matter of minutes. So
the sight block, so that's a describe that for people.
So if you were looking
like
at it,
me who haven't looked at that pistol,
the easiest way to look at it is if you had a 5.4-inch slide, and if you came back a little over an inch and just cut it, okay, and then the slide's able to move back, and that portion stays with the barrel. So anybody familiar with a sight tracker, it kind of has an island on the barrel, if that makes sense. Okay. So with the island barrel, they have to cut out for the island. Instead of cutting out for the island, it's a flat cut on the front of the slide.
Okay.
That mates up to the sight block on the front, which is like a chunk of slide that stays on the barrel.
Got it. So when you swap back and forth like that, do you then have to resight your?
That's
your
what's going to be interesting. I haven't had a chance to test it, and one of the things that I'm pushing for, and the guys at Vortex have been a huge help with this, has been some way to have a torque wrench or something that maybe we can ship with it or recommend, and we have a certain set of inch pounds that it has to be done to. And I think personally, if that's how we do it, it should return to 0 pretty consistently.
So if you torque it to that,
if you torque it to that each
then
time,
it's going to be clocked properly.
Exactly.
Okay.
So instead of having 65 inch-pounds on the right and 45 on the left, because that's what my hands put them on at, if it's set at exactly 50 inch-pounds, which is the recommendation, and then, oh, by the way, the little torque wrench that may ship with it or something like that can't go past 50. Once you hit 50, it breaks free and spins.
Now, is the barrel keyed for the block?
They haven't told me how they've done that yet.
We're gonna have to go take that thing apart and look at it.
Yeah, that was
Jimmy's getting excited.
Yeah,
yes.
with all the patent pending stuff on there, we're kind of keeping a close eye on it. But it's one of those things where it's going to have one screw in the front to change the sight block for the comp.
Gotcha.
And you take it on, take it off. The optic, I think we're going to be able to get it returned to 0 pretty easy if we use the right torque specs. The same thing with the rear sight. And that's one of the things I'm kind of going to test a little bit is I'm going to shoot 100 rounds, swap it, shoot 100 rounds, swap it, shoot 100 rounds, and then go back to paper and find out. I've swapped it on and off 5 or 6 times. Am I still on? Okay, let's swap it over again. Is it still on?
Gotcha.
And if it is, that's fantastic. One of the things I did, Warren Scope Mounts, one of my sponsors, I put the Vortex Razor in that, and I've got like 3 of them that are in a FDE or a black Warren X-Scale, and they send the torque wrenches to me at the beginning of the year. I had it sitting in the safe, hadn't been on a gun in 6 months, but it was zeroed. I put it on my rifle, torqued it down exactly how I was supposed to. I took it out. I'm like, I need to sight this in because I'm going to take it for deer season. It was in. I shot, and I may have needed 1 or 2 clicks either up or down at 100 yards. It was dead on. And that was pretty impressive. It wasn't even on the same gun.
Oh,
So,
weird.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Now, it was the same receivers, rise receiver to a rise receiver,
Right.
both machined out of the same place, everything. So everything was consistent, but I did not expect that.
Right. So are you going to be playing in open division this year then?
I have a dot that's going to go on a shotgun.
Okay.
And I've got a new RCI M2, and Mark Roth over there built it for me. We're talking about various ways that we could mount that dot, and there might be some things that are pretty interesting coming out in the future that we haven't mentioned yet or gotten into. But right now I've got a kind of a speed bead mount that I can put the Viper or a Venom on the back. I think for the shotgun, at least with slugs and distance, I think the Venom with a 3 MOA is probably going to be the better option on that.
Right.
Just because of the mounting platform and the size of the dot. So I will be playing a little bit. I haven't decided where yet, and obviously how soon I can get the honcho actually in my hands to play with, versus just being able to play with it here and then watch it walk away at the end of the show. So
Sad.
it's a very hard thing to give back.
Go ahead.
I was just saying the super cool thing about the honcho. I mean, when I walked over, you guys were checking it out, and of course, me not being as much into the competition shooting yet. I kind of hear a lot of these phrases getting thrown out there, and I'm like, oh, yeah, and it's a really cool gun. You feel it. I mean, it feels amazing. What is it like when you rack the slide? I mean, it's like glass on glass, right?
What was it? Was it buttered glass or
buttered glass?
Something, yeah, it was like buttered glass. it is
butter, but
it is insanely smooth.
And you hear a lot of people talking about this stuff. I'm like, man, that's a really impressive pistol. But then when you explain later that that's 4, if not in some cases 5 pistols.
Yes.
In one.
Yeah.
I mean, just in seeing in the Pelican case, how many mags does it come with?
It comes with 7 mags. So I did the math on it. All of the mags are coming from MBX right now, and you've got a 170 millimeter 938 mag. Mm-hmm. You've got 3 40 cal 140 millimeter mags, and then 3 9 millimeter 140 mil mags. So you've got 7 mags. Comes out to $940 on just the mags, and then it'll ship in a Patriot case. I had a Patriot case built almost identical to it. It was $239. Mm-hmm. So a $239 case, $940 in mags. I pushed if we could get it down to $5,500 would be a good price range, because you're going to have basically a setup to shoot 40, and you can go shoot USPSA and shoot major and not get dinged with your 3-gun pistol with power factor, right? Mm-hmm. They got it in at $4,850, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, it's got to be above 5. And they're like, well, no. I'm going, okay, no, $4,850 is fine. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, but if you guys can sell it for that, awesome. Because you're getting, if you were to look at it, you can run 9 major in there. So you can shoot open and limited in USPSA, and then you can shoot virtually any division but heavy in 3-gun. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to go to a 3-gun match and they allow 40 in heavy, Well, guess what you can shoot there?
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
So you can shoot a whole other division in that aspect.
That's pretty crazy.
You can get a less expensive setup from what I've gathered, but if you ever want to switch, it's just one. If you ever want to switch, then you have to buy more parts to switch, or you have to buy a whole new gun, and then ultimately it's kind of.
Generally with 2011s, like you have to buy a whole new gun, right? It's not like you can.
You
just
can get a
swap barrels
slide
out.
done.
Oh, okay.
It's typically not just a barrel. You'll have to get a slide and get a whole new top end.
Right.
And if you look, there's several manufacturers that have built a 9 and a 40 top end, and both of them are iron side, everything else. And then sometimes you'll see somebody who will do a 40 top end and then a 38 super top end or something like that, and it can be done. But a lot of gunsmiths don't like doing it.
Right.
Because the problem is the slide to the frame is where the fit is. Well, if you're shooting one all the time, then you swap the slide over. Well, they don't have the same round count.
Right.
It's kind of like it's kind of like taking an old transmission, an old motor, and you don't know what the round count or what the mileage is on either one of them. You slap them together and you're like, I hope this works.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, let's find a better option.
Well, so you were talking earlier about your stigmatism as it relates to red dots. Do you find that problem on pistol or shotgun distance?
I don't think it's going to be an issue with pistol because the majority of the targets that we shoot, I can either turn the dot up or down.
Right.
And the more I turn the dot down, the less that astigmatism becomes prevalent. The more I crank it up. So if we're talking about hosing some paper on a stage, I don't care what shape that dot is.
Right.
When it comes to the shotgun with the 3 MOA dot, if I've got to shoot slugs, I can back the illumination down a little bit, and still my aiming point might be the point of the triangle instead of a nice round crisp dot.
Right.
And it still seems to work really well.
Okay.
And trying to get something with an etched reticle that's going to fit on those is I'm not even going to ask you guys to try and figure that part out.
We had
that would
somebody on Facebook today. We posted a post about our new Crossfire red dot, and they were asking about anything small in the micro red dot family, that would be able to do that. And it's just, it's tough. Ultimately, that's basically an iron sight.
Well, and you have to think about, so you got a micro dot, and you're going to put it on a pistol. You have this tiny little, maybe an inch wide window.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's inch wide, 3/4 of an inch tall. Okay, so you're going to try and put an etched reticle in there and then hold it at the end of your hands. Now find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And a dot's bright, shiny. Yay! I pull it up and there it is. Having a little etched dot in there. Well, what's going to happen when the sun starts to go down? I'm not seeing that dot anymore.
Right.
Well, now you want to illuminate that thing at the end of your arms. At the illumination on an etched reticle just isn't going to be what a red dot is, and so it's not a good combo. It sounds great on paper.
Right. It's always been interesting to me too. When people talk about that kind of a thing. You would need. In order to have an etched reticle, you need a full optical system, too. It can't just be sitting out there. Because if you look at a reticle, if you pull it outside of a rifle scope or a prism optic, they're tiny. It's like you need a magnifying glass to actually see essentially the subtensions and the whole reticle itself. They're so finite. And then, of course, when you put them in a rifle scope, the whole optical train, winds up making it look like this just kind of big thing.
Right.
But, the glass etched ones, they're like microscopic practically.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
see,
that's
you
pretty
learn
cool.
something every day.
Yeah, no kidding. Dang, what else do you know, Jamie?
I don't know. I've learned a bunch of weird stuff when I was on my high school and college jobs, and I got to work in rifle scope and binocular repair.
Oh, cool.
So, got to rip apart a bunch of stuff. Actually, that was like my job. I was just the guy who ripped stuff apart.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
That sounds like fun. So, we have a lot of people that listen to the Three Gun Show that are like new in the sport or want to get into the sport. And one of the big hurdles that I see for people is that they think they don't have the right gear. And I always tell people, like, go with whatever you have. But for some reason, there's like a hurdle. People say, I want to go out and make sure I have the right gear, this or that. So I always say, like, get something and go shoot it. So if we're talking like the lowest barrier to entry, the least expensive Vortex red dot for like an AR-15 platform that'll get you into limited, and then you bring out your pump shotgun, you bring out your pistol.
Totally.
What kind of red dot are we looking at, and what kind of price point?
It's got to be the new Crossfire red dot.
Okay, so I haven't seen this one. We should go check it out when we're done here.
Yeah, we definitely will. So, look at the Crossfire red dot. If any of you are familiar with the Spark series of red dots, that's one that's been around for a while. You've got the Spark 2 and the Spark AR. Ultimately, this one's going to probably replace the Spark 2. But, to kind of get into the nitty-gritty details, first off, you talk about a price point, and that's something that a lot of people are just getting into something they want to look at first, because it's sort of like, is this investment even going to be worth it? So you're talking about $149 retail. And for what you get, I remember when NPD, our new product development team, brought that to us and they told us what the price was going to be. We were all actually expecting, we were like, this is like the new Spark 2, this is upgraded. Like this, if anything, it's probably going to be more than the Spark 2. And they're like, no, it's $149. And we were all like,
wow.
Okay, how many can I buy? Like put me on for 5. So, but I mean, it's got 2 MOA dot. If you look at the Spark 2, it always had those digital kind of buttons on the side. We switched over to a more simple illumination adjustment tool in the rotary dial on the side. And so that's kind of just a little bit more simple feature there. Helps bring the cost down slightly. But, I mean, it's super cool. It comes with a skeletonized base. It's really lightweight. I think it's barely over 5 ounces. And, I mean, it can do it all. So, yeah, you can put it on a low mount. You can run it on a shotgun or an AK or whatever, but you can put it on that included high riser mount and run it on an AR and just run and gun with it.
All right, I'm gonna have to go check this out.
They're cool. They're
$150.
really cool.
$150. I mean, you can't.
It's hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
It takes away like the I don't have the right gear.
No, there's no excuse at that point.
But okay, so $150 for a red dot. You're shooting limited division, and in like 95% of the scenarios in 3-gun, in like club matches and things like that, you're going to be shooting out to like maybe 200 yards.
Yeah.
That's entirely feasible for a red dot.
Absolutely.
So if you're like Dylan, you have astigmatism, or maybe you want some magnification, what's the next step up from there? We were talking about the Strike Eagle,
Yep.
the 1:6, right?
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, like you said, if you're looking for a little bit of magnification, you might not go for the Spitfire AR, which has the etch reticle, but you might look at the Strike Eagle 1:6. And that guy has been around for a couple of years now, and really is, I think I looked at it not too long ago. It numbers wise, that is our most sold optic in our entire line.
Wow.
And so yeah,
That's
you just
crazy.
talk about units leaving the door. That one's number one in
And
all
it's
of
fairly
Vortex.
new too, right?
It's been around. So it's about 3. I'd say the
Yeah.
1 to 8 is the more new one. But the 1 to 6, you talk about. I think we actually recently just dropped the price slightly on those to about $300.
Okay.
So I mean, you get that.
Wow.
You get a 30 millimeter cantilever mount that you can find for anywhere around $50 or something like that. And I mean, put it on your gun and you're rocking and rolling all the way out to 600 yards. I mean, whatever really as a shooter with your skill level and with your practice level, whatever you can
Right.
shoot out to.
So that'll get us okay. So that's like your entry into to TAC Ops.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we have an entry into limited. We have an entry into TAC Ops. I don't even think there's an entry into open. It's just all
open is
your
a division. Yeah, open's a division where you open your checkbook and say,
Yeah.
I have signed this. You just write a number and I will pay it.
right. Okay. So let's talk a step up then in limited division. It's going to be the obviously the Spitfire AR, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got a chance to play with this one. I did a run and gun with the Spitfire, which was a ton of fun because we only shot out to like 200 yards. And I started in limited division myself, so I kind of like the 1X type of stuff. I find myself not moving my Viper to any sort of magnification for most targets up to like 200.
Right.
Most of the time I forget, but other times it's in the plan.
Yeah, exactly.
So Spitfire AR has a bullet drop turret on it. So this is going to get you out to 200 yards, going to get you past 200 yards with that turret. So
it actually goes to 700.
I was about to say, that turret goes way out.
We took it at Media Day on Monday,
okay,
and we had it in the booth with a 16-inch gun with 55 grain 223, and we had 50, 100, 200, I think 325, 450, 515, and we made hits all the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had 840 and 960. We weren't going to try it at 960. 55 grain 223 is just not going to get there. But we're kind of curious whether 840 was possible. It took us 8 shots to get 2 hits.
Nice.
And we dialed it to 700, and then basically started bracketing and kept going up, 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 up. Luckily, we had no wind, so we didn't have to hold for that. And then on the 6th hit, I handed over to Garrett Grover over at Rise and said, "Here, this is exactly where you need to hold." You probably know, I don't remember it offhand, the inner circle on the Spitfire, the boulder circle.
You're going to ask me what MOA it is, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll put you on the spot.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So it obviously you can look it up and see, but to give you an idea, at dialed for 700, we had to hold the target at the very bottom of that thick first circle on the inside, and then we hit.
The bottom of the target?
Yeah. We had to hold the target at the bottom of that circle.
Oh, okay.
In the reticle.
I gotcha.
And then that was the difference between 700 and 840.
Wow.
And we kind of figured out that basically what we were doing was we were mortaring in rounds and
Yeah.
repeatedly hitting, it was shocking. So
I think the Spitfire AR is a really interesting optic in that so many people see red dots. They're so used to seeing red dots. I mean, when you see them in the movies, you see them in the video games all over the place. And they think that the Spitfire AR is almost like it's like a compromise optic. Like, crap, I can't do a red dot because I have an astigmatism. I guess I'll get a Spitfire. And every single person that I've ever brought over to a Spitfire, usually it's because of the astigmatism. But then once they get it, they're like, holy crap, this thing is amazing. Because you talk about, looking through it, the field of view is huge through those things. Yep. You get that etched reticle. And the DRT reticle with the two outer circles and then a center dot, I find it, when I'm shooting and I'm transitioning between targets, it's so much easier to look at a target and put something inside of something and then pull the trigger instead of putting something on top of something.
Yeah.
So with a red dot, you got to put the dot on the target and pull the trigger.
Right.
But with those circles, it's like just put the target in the circle and you're probably going to hit it. Pull the trigger and everything is so much quicker. And that's.
Do you find yourself even using the illumination on it?
No, I actually don't. Unless
I've
I'm
got
in like
four
unless
of
I've been in
them,
the woods.
and I have no batteries in them.
Yeah.
I'd have no purpose for it. If I was going to shoot at night and I needed something in there, then I would put a battery in. But right now, I have no purpose for it.
Out at our farm, we have a bunch of targets in the woods, and that's another time I've used the illumination because it is nice to be able to pick a black reticle apart against a bunch of trees, especially when it's like wintertime or fall.
Right.
But otherwise, no. You just use it as is. It's a fixed power. It's a fixed 1-power rifle scope.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and it's really tiny compared to other.
Well, and
rifle
it's one thing you were talking about batteries. I like that. It's like AAA, right?
Yeah,
it is,
AAA battery.
Yeah.
And it's integrated into the base, so it doesn't stick out or anything.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
The side. Yeah.
I love that because it's like a battery that I have sitting around. Like I use it for recording equipment.
And to give you an idea too, if you're going to buy them, if I'm going to go buy a giant watch battery for most red dots, and a lot of those smaller ones have to use that.
It's like 2032 or something.
Yeah, it's a 2032 battery. A 2-pack is like $9.
Yeah.
Or I can buy a 12-pack for like $6.
Right.
Yep.
And so the batteries are cheaper, plentiful, easy to find, and they work in everything.
And you've got kids, so generally
God.
you're buying AAAs or.
It's the remotes, it's the toys, it's the everything that they use has those things.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I buy them in bulk.
Yeah, Jimmy, what you were talking about of putting the target inside that circle, I found that. So the first time I actually used a Spitfire rather than just looking through it, Rob Taint lent me his PCC when the one that I was shooting went down, and it had one on there. And it was awesome because it's just this giant circle, and, it was a 3-gun nation match, so you just blaze through stuff, and if you get that close to the target, I was pulling the trigger.
Exactly. I find myself, like, my brain has to comprehend so much more. Even though I'm doing the same thing, when I put a dot on a target, I think, oh, it's got to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so I'm there kind of like, it's a split second, but you're kind of thinking about, like, it's got to be on it. But when you have a circle, you're just like, just put it in it, boom, and it just happens. So, but
exciting.
yeah.
All right, so so that's like the mid and the high end of limited optics, right? The Spitfire.
Well, unless you include the new UH-1.
Yeah.
Would that be in limited now?
Yeah,
UH-1
limited.
it isn't limited.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about
pretty
that.
sweet.
And it's no issue with an astigmatism.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So,
But it's
'Cause it's a
holographic, so
holographic?
it's not a projected dot.
Okay. And it has the sweetest nickname of any optic, the Huey.
Yeah. The Huey.
So let's talk about the UH-1. So what is what are we looking at there?
So the Huey, like we were saying, it's a hologram. So first off, just inherently by nature of a hologram, you have less issues with an astigmatism. I can't say for sure it's like 100% guaranteed. You might have an issue, but I've never seen one. But
I can look through it with an astigmatism and it looks nice and clean.
Right. Everyone I've heard,
it doesn't have that kind of a spalling reticle, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone I've heard has had a good luck with it. But the nice thing that you get with holographic sights, so if you compare them to the smaller reflex sights, the reason a lot of, you look at the Crossfire red dot, for instance, and other red dots that are that similar size, the reason why a lot of them have to stay so small is because, first off, the whole point of those optics is to be a small little optic. And in order to get a larger objective lens, that objective lens is also doing the job of reflecting the LED light back to your eye.
Right.
Well, if you make that objective lens larger for, the larger field of view through the optic, then you're going to have more issues with the blue tint. You're going to have more issues of kind of that fishbowl effect that you get, unless you make the optic itself longer. Actually, that's kind of, there's trade-offs. Anytime that you just sort of balloon something and make it bigger, if you don't change something else, then you're gonna have a side effect. You can't just make things bigger without it translating to something else. But with the holographic sight, you can get the nice big sight picture of the UH1. The UH1 is a really big sight picture.
Yeah.
And it's nice that it's that square shape too, like a heads-up display. But since those outside windows, they're just that, they're windows. They're not reflex. They're not actually performing any optical function aside of, all they do is just waterproof the hologram.
Oh, okay.
But you're just looking right through that. So there's no distortion. You can get that big sight picture for like a heads-up display. There's no distortion. You'll get almost no blue tint at all, no fishbowl effect. So you see through right through that optic. It's just like there was nothing there. And then of course with the UH1 too, the nice thing we've been able to do is, all the holographic, the key components to the holographic system itself are either inside or attached directly to the base of the optic too. So the outer sort of shell, so to speak, of it is just that it doesn't have any critical components connected to it. So other holograms in the past or other holographic sites in the past, they do have some of those critical components actually sort of attached to the outside of the body. And the body is sort of a plastic material, and so they have to have a shroud, an aluminum shroud that goes around the outside again. So if you look through those, you kind of notice, you kind of feel like you're looking through, like layers of housing once you finally get to the sight picture. But with the UH1, you don't have to worry about when you're bashing it around. You're not going to be hitting actually anything that's critical to the function of the hologram. So we don't have to have that outer aluminum shroud. So you get a really clean sight picture through the optic. So
awesome. And our buddy Adam Maxwell's been using one of those in 3-gun as well. Seems to like it quite a bit.
Yep. It's got the 1 MOA dot. It has, similar to the Spitfire, the 65 MOA circle around the outside. And then it has a really unique feature that I like a lot, the little triangle at the 6 o'clock position, if you see the reticle. That's for your CQB. So I remember one thing that kind of hit me when I was at the Hornady match was there was a stage where we started out where there was targets that I could have practically almost reached out and touched from where I was standing.
Right.
And so you bring your rifle up and you're like, boom! And you're like, wait, I didn't hit it. Like, what the heck just happened? Like, that is the easiest target to hit, but then you realize that there's the offset between your optic and the barrel at that distance. And so we put that little triangle at the 6 o'clock position so that it's kind of a reference point when you're moving and grooving real quick. You can say, just put the triangle on it, pull the trigger, it just raises it up enough.
Oh, that's awesome.
So,
and that's a match that's notorious for putting a clay pigeon at 10 feet and watching people burn a mag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just crushes your soul every time. You're like, how? Oh yeah. Hold over the top.
Yeah. Our club match at the Ben Lamont Gun Club, they do that. They put 2 clays over the shoulders of a no shoot.
That's just mean. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and by the end of the day, it's like Swiss cheese on top of that target. All right, so then let's step it up then in TAC Ops. So I'm guessing the Viper PST 1 to 6.
Totally.
Gen 2 is going to be what we're looking at there. I go with the MRAD reticle.
That's what I use in it.
Does have MOA if you're used to that.
Yep. I know that people have put in. There's been many a request to get something similar to the JM1 from the Razor into the PST. So that's something that we've entertained as well. I can't promise anything, of course, but seeing how many people have really taken to the PST Gen 2 1 to 6, and how much it's starting to get used in competition and things like that, it would be pretty neat to have something along those lines.
It's hard to argue with the price point. When you get that much optic for the price, I mean, I took it down and shot the first UML match at USSA in Tulsa. And I shot the 2-gun side, trying to get some of the USPSA guys to come play, and ended up winning that division with that optic on there.
Yeah,
and it's
awesome.
just like, 90% of the time running at a 1 power, and it looks exactly like my Razor.
Yeah.
And then, at that particular range, if you've ever seen it or shot there, most of the bays go to 50, 75 yards at the most. And so 2 power is about as high as I'm going to crank it up and just smack them 1 for 1 and go across it with a little 13.8-inch gun.
Mm-hmm.
So
and do you use the illumination on that for the daylight bright dot, or do you
I
usually
do.
Go?
If I'm hammering paper, I want to put the blurry red thing on the blurry brown thing and rip a couple rounds. I'm not going to say that I'm hitting all alphas on that.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be a hit and a lucky hit, but yeah, we're going to be ripping through that, and it's going to be blurry on blurry.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Or I guess as Jerry says, put the fuzzy on the fuzzy.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I don't do the red dot unless we're doing like super close hoser stuff.
Yeah.
And or like you said, going through the woods. There's some stages in rock castle where you definitely need to turn that up because you're in the woods,
Right.
shooting paper and stuff like that. But yeah, the dot is great because it's so small and fine that if you do transition from paper to like a long range target, it doesn't get in your way.
Yep.
I've shot some other scopes, the ones that I've owned in the past, where and I'm kind of wondering now that I've almost blurted out that it looked fuzzy for me. I was like, I wonder if I have astigmatism. But it washes out, so it's not near as fine when you're going out for that 500-yard target.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually I think a dot sometimes is nice as well because, a lot of the other reticles out there, they illuminate the whole reticle.
Yeah.
And, sometimes when I turn my illumination on, I'm kind of like, I actually kind of would rather not see everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
and that's a great point. I was really surprised when I started using the Viper that it was just that one dot in the middle, and I was like, oh man, I want a big, because I'm used to like the big illuminated reticle like with the Spitfire. I was thinking like, oh, this is gonna be bad, but then I saw the transitions from near to far targets, and it actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah, you can almost get obnoxious if you have too much lit up.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
You're kind of right. I want to see what I want to see,
Yep.
not everything that you're throwing at me.
Exactly.
Right.
All right, so I want to talk about high-end optics, but you both need to turn around and look because Larry Vickers is over there filming something, and we need to all cross that off our SHOT Show bingo card.
Oh,
See Larry Vickers.
I got
Let
a
me
digital
check it.
one. I still don't get bingo, though.
Okay, so we got Donald Trump Jr.
We got Larry Vickers. This has been an eventful podcast.
Yeah, I don't know who else we're going to.
We had a Ruben sighting.
Yeah, we did a short one.
All right, so high end on the TAC Ops side, which is also going to be where most open people play as well, is obviously going to be the Razor 1-6.
The Razor 1-6 is a good one. Some of your open guys will throw like a PST2 2-10 because they can throw. I know the 3-15 has a first focal plane.
Correct.
The 2-10, I don't remember if it does or not.
It is, yeah.
So if I've got a first focal plane 2-10 and an offset dot, I have a lot of potential there. I personally think it's probably more
It's kind of like
illumination
a 1-10.
that's needed. Yeah, it's like having a 1-10. The 1-6 Razor though is that one of my favorite scopes. The 4.5 to 27 is like cheating.
Yeah,
it's a little big and a little much for 3-gun, but the 1-6 is right there with it. So
awesome.
Yeah, the 1-6. That was my the 1-6 was my first rifle scope. I remember we had some. I don't even remember how it happened, but it was like some demo piece from way back when we first got the first couple in.
it's like
And
being
they were
ruined
like-
from day one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I came in as like I don't know, what was I? I think I just turned 18 because that's when I started buying all my rifles and stuff. But I came in, I was like, I need an optic, and they're like, scrounged around in like a box somewhere, and they're like, well, this one I think still works.
Nice.
We'll sell it to you. I was like, cool, thanks. But it's been rocking and rolling ever since. So
Yeah, I was shooting limited the first time. Doug Johnson showed me a Razor at the Noveski match, and I was like, all right, I'll take a look at it. And again, I had never seen Vortex. I'm from Colorado, so Burris is like the deal out there, and I'd never seen anyone shoot a Vortex. Doug comes up with this thing, and I'm like, hey, can I look through that? And I was like blown away. Like I had to go sit down. Like, wow, this is what
When you get behind it, the scope disappears.
it looks.
It's
better
just a
than,
reticle.
It looks better than real life.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those things you sit there and you go like, okay, well, I guess I can I'll try it. And you look at it and you're like, well, where'd the scope go? There's a reticle in the air. I can see that. And then the things got closer, but I don't see the turrets. I don't see the bell. I don't see the objective. I don't see anything. I just see the reticle.
Right.
Which is the thing that I like about it the most. Which
Right.
is, like we talked about, 95% of that is what's in the PST2, which is kind of pretty slick for the price. But,
Yeah, no kidding, for half the price.
And then the 4.5 to 27, you get the same thing again.
Right.
It zooms in a lot more.
So what price point are we talking about for the Razor?
the Razor comes in at about, I think, retail $1,400, because then the PST Gen 2 comes in retail at about $700.
Okay.
So
I mean, that's like we were saying, like it's
3
an
steps.
awesome scope for half the price.
It really
You've got
is.
300, 700, and 1,400. So
Right.
Yep.
you get 3 very obvious steps there and
Yep.
changes in quality.
Now, are you guys selling the Razor and the Razor E, or is it just transitioning over to just the E?
Yeah, the whole thing will transition over to the E because
Okay.
nothing else changed besides that weight.
Right.
So same price.
What was it, 4
obviously.
ounces lost?
Yeah, so you get 4 ounces, about a quarter pound. So yeah, you get everything else is the same price. Yeah, I mean it's just still the same great razor, and of course, like we said, durability and everything like that you can always count on is still the same. So
Cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's a much welcome upgrade. The biggest sort of beef. I would say biggest beef because we dropped a quarter pound, but that we've gotten with
McDonald's
the razor.
is going to sue you.
Oh yeah, but that we gotten with the razor, was the weight, and we wanted to try and make it a little bit lighter weight. Of course it's not a matter of just going in there with a Dremel tool,
Right.
Like we can do with so many other gun parts, but. Just kidding. Don't do that.
I think that's called 3-gun gunsmithing.
Yeah.
DIY.
But, you got to go in there. You got to kind of re-engineer a lot of stuff, figure out new materials, things like that. Some of it can be simple. Some of it's much more complex and involves a lot more work. But, and we get a lot of questions, from people when they see a little bit of an updated razor. This is something I'd be curious to hear, too, from, like, other 3-gun people, maybe yourself and, people who listen to this. But they ask, obviously, there's kind of, you kind of a little upgrade to the Gen 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we going to get some sniffings of a Gen 3 come in or something like that? And, I can't say anything for the near future. I'd say for 2018, everything Gen 2 is going to be plenty current, well into 2019, I'm sure. But, it's kind of curious. Like, you hear people asking for first focal plane in a 1 to something, like a 1 to 8 first focal plane is one of the big ones we see. And you hear people talking about, you hear things like, oh, I really love the Daylight Bright Reticle on the Razor 1 to 6, but then I want a 1 to 8 first focal plane, and then we kind of think, well, hey, that's really tough to get a Daylight Bright Reticle. Like, is that something you could sacrifice if you went with the first focal plane 1 to 8, or hey, what do you think about if it was, like maybe on 8X it didn't quite look as good as the 6X does on the Razor, or maybe you lose a little bit of that really great 1X feel, and then they're kind of like, wait, no, I want to keep that. Yeah. But, kind of figuring out what people really, truly want. Because there's a lot of great numbers and letters out there that sound super cool. 1 to 8 FFP is, like, really awesome.
Sure.
And that's certainly not something that we've discounted at all. If we can make it happen, we'll, make it happen. If it's super badass, we will. But it's kind of curious. I like hearing a lot of what people have to say. I mean, in our product development process, most of it happens by consumer feedback.
Right.
And,
I actually kind of joked with Ruben that what everybody wants is they want a 1 to 15 that weighs 6 ounces.
Right.
First focal plane, eye box like the Razor, daylight illumination. It has to have that, and it has to come in at $600.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I want everything, and I want it for next to nothing. It's a give and take.
Yeah.
You could probably develop a 1 to 8 first focal plane daylight, but it's going to be not something anyone can afford.
That's another thing too. Is the price point. I mean, as is, I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it. I mean, the Razor Gen 2 it's an investment when you get it, and undoubtedly, we talk about the PST Gen 2. You can get it for $700. There is tangible benefits to moving up to the Razor Gen 2, but it's not cheap for somebody who's looking to get into it, or if it's their first kind of high-end purchase. So, if you do talk about introducing something that's bigger, better, you got to figure out how you can do it at a price point that people will be able to afford and want too. So.
I usually tell people, if you look at the Strike Eagle, the guy who goes out and shoots a hobby match once in a while, it's fantastic optic for him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything he's probably going to ever need. The guy who wants to take things serious and doesn't want to break the bank, PST is right there for him.
Yeah.
It's a noticeable upgrade. It's a great glass. It's a great value. The guy who really, really wants to push and fight for a divorce, the Razor's a great stepping stone to get that divorce.
Absolutely.
When you're going to go out and shoot 10 to 15 major matches a year and every single club match you can get your hands on, hey, you know what? The Razor's the cheap part.
Yep.
But that's kind of the obvious stepping stone going from a PST2 to a Razor is, how much do you want to push this?
Yeah.
Or how much are you going to abuse your gun?
Right. Absolutely.
So
I was given a piece
doing
of advice one time of spend as much on the optic as you did on the rifle. And
so
I guess
I'd always heard two things. The value of the optic should be about the same as the rifle, which, depending upon the rifle, can be difficult to do. But then I'd also heard, because I've heard the same thing put across, like, well, my rifle's $350. Okay, a $350 rifle with a $700 optic is going to shoot a lot better than a $700 rifle with a $350 optic.
Totally.
That's just the honesty aspect.
And it's kind of true. The part that I ran into was, when I put the Viper on the Armalite, I was like, okay, well, now that doesn't equate in my head. I don't have the the equal sign in between,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started shooting, I was like, wow, this is like way better value than the price indicates.
Yeah.
So
It's
well,
a, it's
MSRP on the what's MSRP on the Armalite? 1,600, 1,700?
16 something.
Okay, so 1,600. What's MSRP, not retail price, on the PST2? Like
$9.99. It's right at
so
1,000.
1,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not really far
Yeah.
off. So difference
Little
between retail and
closer than I
MSRP.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit closer,
Yeah.
and
It's kind of one of those rules. It's a little bit like I before E except in neighboring way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
like if you get a $6,000 gun, well it's kind of like you might have to make a $6,000 out. I don't know where you're going to get one,
Right.
but if you put a razor on it, it's absolutely going to do the job. But to the other point too, like you said, when a guy gets a $350 rifle, like should I put a $350 optic on it? Sure, you can. If that's the whole goal of the setup is to be an affordable setup, then I mean by all means. But yeah, I mean. You can't shoot what you can't see.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a little bit in a different realm of competition style shooting. But I got a Ruger American 6.5 Creedmoor, the Predator, and we went out to our Vortex
They're
Extreme.
like super inexpensive, aren't
Oh
they?
yeah, I mean you can get one if you go on Gunbroker, and you're lucky you can get one for like $325 or $350 sometimes.
That's nuts.
And we went out to the Vortex Extreme in Utah, and I had a Razor 5-20 on it, and everybody was making fun of me because they're like, "Oh, dude, you have a $1,700 optic on a gun that you got for $350." And I was like, "Well, yeah, all right. Well, let's step up to the line." And I was hitting targets out to $1,200.
Yeah.
And then dudes with custom rigs that cost them, like a mortgage, were like, I mean, they were shooting the same targets. We were hitting the same targets, and I can't say that I was doing any better than them, but I was right there with them.
Sure.
So it's kind of goofy how that works,
It is fun to go out and win, or not win, but compete
Yeah.
with the gear that everyone laughs at too.
Yeah,
It's just like, oh, that's not good enough. All right, ding.
yeah.
Right.
You mentioned going out with a $350 optic. I've got guns in the safe that are $2,000 guns, and they've got a Spitfire on them.
Yeah.
Well, if I'm going to shoot that division, it's a
Yeah.
$350 optic.
That's
So
a very good point.
it's now it's not a variable scope, so it's a little bit different there.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, shooting out 500-600 at the lead farm matches, that's every month.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
There's a lot of things where you just don't need to spend a ton of money. Like if you got a fixed 1-power prism optic that you just need, solid build quality, great glass in it. I mean, you don't need to spend an arm and a leg on it. I mean,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, if
Spitfire AR
limited
is
division
just
is your
fine, yeah.
is your bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you save
All
some
right.
money.
So Jimmy, you guys announced in December the enhanced model,
Yes.
and you guys dropped that on December 8th, and I haven't seen you since then. So I got a little bone to pick with you, buddy.
12-8. 1-2-8.
1,
yeah,
2,
I heard,
8. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Dylan put that thought in my head, and I was just like, "Oh, it's gonna be a 1-8." And then when it was not a 1-8, I was like,
Yeah, that
"Oh,
was very
these
well.
clever marketing people."
Very well noted, actually. That was one of those accidental.
Was that accidental?
Completely. I will. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay.
it was completely accidental. So we posted that. We were all feeling pretty good about it. Like super cool. Yeah. Like shot that out to some people. And then Ruben goes, "Hey, you know what day it is today?" And I was like, "I don't know, December 8th." And he was like, "Yeah, 1-2-8." And I was like, "Oh." we were already thinking, we were like, oh yeah, we're like teasing out something Razor-esque, and it's a 1 to something. We're like, people are probably gonna think it's a 1-8. They'll be a little bit disappointed, but this will be really cool because it's a lighter weight Razor. And then he was like, dude, you posted on 12-8. And I was like, all right,
That's awesome.
we got a little digging to do, get ourselves out of this one. But
It was
love
it was good for some humor for a while.
I love it. Well, guys, I think we covered optics pretty well from the get-go, and I kind of want to switch gears for just a couple minutes here. Jimmy, you run the social media team at Vortex Optics, right?
Yeah.
And I gotta say, you guys are like freaking killing it on Instagram. Like I love Instagram. I hate Facebook, but all our dudes are there on Facebook, and it's great to have like the groups and stuff like that where we can communicate. You guys are freaking killing it on Instagram.
Thank you.
And I never thought that I would want to know what you had for lunch every day.
that's one of the most baffling things.
You might be
to
depressed.
even myself.
Yeah,
So the pizza oven, I'm sure you're referring to.
that's right.
Yeah, no, back when that started out, I remember we were trying to Instagram put out their story feature, and everyone was kind of like, oh, that's neat. People would put something up like every once in a while. And I was like, I think this is going to be kind of cool. We should try and just like populate it with anything. I was like, just find stuff to put on the story. Like just make sure Vortex always has a story. And so one day I was, making lunch, and I had a wrap that I really wanted, like a toasted wrap. And I was like, oh, we have a pizza oven. This is perfect. And I like stuck it in there. I was like, oh, that's kind of goofy. It's something that's not a pizza and a pizza oven. I was like, I'll just throw it on the story. I don't know, whatever. And then 5 comments came in. They're like, oh, you put a wrap in a pizza oven. And I was like, oh, that was kind of funny. And I was like, well, the next day I brought some chicken tenders. So I was like, I'll put some chicken tenders in there. Throw it up on the story. And then 10 comments. And they're like, oh, now you put chicken in the, what else are you going to put in there? So then it was like, oh, throws other stuff. And then here we are today. So, yeah. In fact, it made it into our catalog for 2018. So, yeah, I mean, for those of you listening, if you shoot us an email at catalogs@vortexoptics.com with your information, so full address and all that stuff, we'll ship you a free catalog.
Cool.
You can flip over. There's a product side and then kind of a magazine side that's called the Vortex Life. And if you flip back, there's a recipe for chicken and waffle quesadillas.
No way.
And our photo team went all in on it. It's the most appetizing looking photo I've ever seen. And it's all really sexy lighting on it, and it's on a nice wooden cutting board. I mean, it looks straight out of Food Network. But
so
yeah.
I kind of feel like I screwed up on the sponsorship contract aspect. I don't have a pizza oven with Vortex logo on it, and I haven't eaten out of it, so I think I screwed up. I need to negotiate better next year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that next year.
That's so awesome, man. I when I go to matches and we chat, and I chat with everybody at matches.
Yeah.
And people will bring up the pizza oven story. Like when the pizza oven died, that was a talk at a match.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. It's like, oh, did you see their pizza oven died? And I'm like, I can't believe that we're all talking about this.
I know. Yeah, it was unbelievable. That day was, somebody came up to me and they're like, did you hear? Your pizza oven broke. And I was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? I was kind of traumatized, and then put it up on the story. And as many of you know, Sean Burrows, it was his wife's idea. He told me to admit it was his wife Alicia's idea. So, but they sent us the new one, and the new one is, it's very nice. That was one of the best days ever when that thing showed up.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
now you can cook a bunch of non-pizza items in there.
Exactly. And if that's not a true testament to how great the folks in 3-Gun are, Sean being one of the dudes in 3-Gun, everybody that I've ever met in this sport is the greatest person ever. So.
Yeah. That's what will get you to stick around,
Absolutely.
3-Gun is not easy, and it can be humiliating when you go out there and get your butt handed to you.
Yeah.
But the people are so nice that it makes you want to come back and shoot it again. So.
Yeah. I've shown up to, what was it, at Hornady. I didn't have a pistol or a shotgun. I had an SBR with a 1-8 Strike Eagle on it, and everyone was just sort of like, oh, use this, use that. It was like, here's my belt, here's my holster, here's my this, that. And I was kind of like, cool. I shot a whole match with other people's gear. And then at the end of it, I was kind of like, wow, everybody literally put me through the whole match.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have all been there, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
Yeah.
So
you think that was nice, but that's the first bump, right?
Yeah.
The first bump's free?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, next time I go back to Hornady, I'm probably going to owe everybody a pizza or something.
Have to cook it for them.
No. Chicken and waffle quesadillas.
Okay. I'll do that. That's actually my signature. So.
Awesome. Well, guys, this has been a ton of fun chatting with you here about scopes, about red dots and 1X and 55X and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Really appreciate your time, Jimmy, Dylan. This has been a lot of fun, man.
Always fun.
Yeah,
Always
thanks
fun.
for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, before you take off, check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com for links to things that we discussed in the podcast. You can also sign up on Patreon as a 3-Gun Show supporter or purchase 3-Gun Show apparel. This podcast is also brought to you by Armalite. Through Armalite, I am able to get special pricing for listeners on their line of 3-gun rifles. They have a 13.5 and an 18-inch model, both with Armalite's patented tunable comp, Timney triggers, Luth AR stocks, and they're ready to go right out of the box. If you're more of a build-your-own rifle kind of person, I have a few of their competition handguards left in 12-inch and 15-inch sizes as well. So when you're in the market for a rifle or components to build your own, just email me, dave@3gunshow.com, and I will hook you up. Anytime you see me on the range, you can check out my rifle. I'm currently rocking the 13.5-inch Shorty 3-gun rifle with a Vortex Optics Viper PST 1-6 on it, which I'm really enjoying. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe in iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
finished. Unload, show clear.